Township trustees to order. Could we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Easton, can we have the roll call?
Dr. Cross?
Here.
Mr. Stubbs?
Here.
Mr. Potter? Here. All are present.
And for the record, note that Police Chief Joe Anzig is here, Fiscal Officer Mark Easton is here, and our WebEx facilitator Scott Hamilton and Doug Cross are present. All right, visitor comments, gentlemen. I'm sure somebody has something to say.
I can start if you want. Go ahead. Randy and I are kind of here together. I'm here for the Twisted Pretzel Tours, you might guess. Last year, COVID hit us.
Steve, name and address.
Oh,
Sorry.
Steve Mersch, 7347 Weaver Road, Germantown. So COVID hit us last year. You guys were all set to help us out. We didn't hold the event, as I think you know, but we did raise funds and we did make contributions to the food pantries. So in that sense, it was a success, but we want to have a ride again this year. So the routes are very similar to what we proposed last year. And as in years past, we need your help in two locations. We need your help on the township side of the bridge, 725 bridge, and we need your help this year, particularly at the top of the dam hill. As you know, Mark, that hill just gets worse and worse. So unless something happens, we've discussed it in the committee that we will have probably multiple people on that hill telling riders to slow down, walk your bike, don't take a chance, you know, because that's not a place you want to wipe out. So the two key places that we could use your help, like I said, are we come off of the bike path in Germantown, when we're heading out to the dam, we turn left on the 725. We'll have a Germantown officer on the city side of the bridge, or probably at that where we turn on to 725, which is real close to the bridge. And then they'll go across the bridge, turn right on the creek, and it's really, again, it's the transition from creek to 725 and 725 to the creek that makes us worried, you know, because the traffic on 725, you well know. So somebody there, and then like I said, possibly somebody on the hill helping us control the hill. So that's what we're here to ask, your support. And Randy has a walk that it's a fundraiser walk that we're gonna sort of combine with the Twisted Pretzel Tour. Now that we talked to you about that.
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
What's the date?
Oh, September 24th. Same day as the Pretzel Festival.
I was thinking it was the 25th.
Might be the 25th. Yeah.
September 24th-ish. Right.
Each, yeah.
Ish. 24th, you're right.
Thank you very
My
much. That's,
mistake.
I want you to make a note of that, because you're generally always right, and I'm generally always wrong, so.
I'm glad it's
So
the other
noted.
way tonight.
Randy? All right, name and address.
Randy Klotz, 13261 Oxford Road, out here in the township. That'll be the 5th year I've done a pediatric cancer steps event. Normally I run it up at Eastwood Metro Park, but Metro Parks are getting ridiculous with fees and that, so this year I've moved it to Kircher Park. The city has granted me permits for both a 5K run in park and a 1K walk. And then I've added Steve's 8-mile course, going to start, closer, it's gonna be on July 9th. It's gonna start in Kircher Park, come up through town, back down through here, up to the base of the dam. You know, you don't go up the hill towards the park or the dam, and then back down and end here at Kircher. So the only place I would need someone is, as Steve said, right there at the transition of 725 and Creek Road. And I'll, you know, if you guys will support that, I will get Joe all the information this week, and let him know, so he can plan accordingly. But I've already done the city part through, Major Burns, and I have, the permits from the city to do it, so the only thing I need is support out here on Creek Road.
Absolutely, I don't see any issue with that.
What did they?
Alright, so July 9th, we need someone at 725 in Creek, and then September 24th, we need somebody at 725 in Creek, as well as the top of the hill coming down Creek One.
Yeah, so the one on the hill would kind of work with our volunteers.
Okay.
That, decide where they would be most effective.
What's the hours?
I'll go for, we start our event at 8 AM. So the ride that goes out the dam back will be early, like 8, they'll probably be done by 10. Some of them like to linger at the dam for a while and then come back. But we have longer routes, but those are more professional riders. The group I'm most concerned about is the 8 Mile group, because that's the young kids and the older people. So I would say 8 to 11 possibly would be perfect. If you can't stay that late, I understand, but if you can, that would be great.
And then approximate hours for yours?
Approximate hours, I'm looking at 8:30 to start the bike, and then starting the run at 9, so that by the time they go around, twice around the Weber side of the bike path, running, the bikers will be, coming back, and so hopefully there should be no issues with either one of them. So, and like I said, it's to raise money for pediatric cancer. In the last 4.5 years, we've raised $34,500 for Dayton Children's. So we're hoping by adding a bike ride, one, it advertises and gets more people into Germantown, and it's kind of a run-in for Steve's Twisted Pretzel Tour.
Perfect.
How late do you need them this day?
How long
I put
do you think?
11:30.
Okay, yeah, cause I don't think,
I just made it the 3-hour window.
yeah, I don't think anybody will still be out there on a bike in 3 hours unless they're old like me. But it's a pretty flat route, so it should.
Because you only have the 8 mile, Randy.
I only have the 8 mile, yes, I have the short route. Because this is a test run to see if bringing a bike into this will attract more people to come in to raise more funds.
Right,
So it's an experiment this year.
yeah. Certainly have our support, and if Chief says it's okay, you're good.
Yeah.
We're good. All right, guys. Well, good luck with everything.
Thank you. Jeremy, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Happy to help you guys out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Every year. Thank you.
There's no group that's easier to work with than you guys. I can tell you that. That's
Sure,
fantastic.
you're just trying to butt it out.
Well, I will tell you this, the city was concerned about using the covered bridge, because they're going to be working on it, but we cleared that, they said for bicycle and walkers.
Awesome.
use the bridge, so
Perfect.
it's gonna be great.
Off the record, from my
It's a Lions
earlier,
night.
of my earlier letter, get
Here
TLC
comes another
communications,
line.
get fiber optic out here.
Yeah.
They're getting there.
That's what they said. Whether we can believe them, that's what they said.
Do you wanna
They
take
came
the
out
floor
and
for
gave
anything?
presentations.
Whatever he said.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you, John.
All right, thank you guys.
See you tomorrow
Thank you for all
night,
you
guys.
do.
How you doing, Jeff?
Big tree done across Diamond Hill, so that's why I'm late.
And I'd like to add to the record that Jeremy Holbrook is here. So,
I just wanted to know I was here. That's good.
Mr. Denera, do you have anything to say?
There's nothing going on up there.
That's
So,
what- That's good, yeah.
He's lying low for the moment.
Good. I didn't know if you had any public comments for us.
No, I was.
Could I add something?
You can
Yeah.
certainly say.
Okay. Phil Thomas, you all knew Phil,
Mhm.
he passed away.
Yes.
Jeff is heading up our communications, part of the event, and he'll be sort of doing the radio controls and safety on the extended part of the route, so he's gonna be heading that up.
Anything y'all can do to talk to Montgomery County and tell them to fix that darn road going down?
Creek Road?
Yeah, we talked about that.
We can discuss.
It's not safe.
It is not, no.
All
Take
right.
care, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
county road.
It's a county road, yes.
Conservancy's only a township road north of Moses, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So no other public comments, can we have the fiscal officer's report?
Sure. Nobody? Okay, good evening, everyone. I don't have a whole lot tonight, so hopefully we'll get out of here before it starts to rain again. Very hard. I have two sets of minutes I've given you, the May 9th regular meeting and the May 31st special meeting. Dr. Cross has already noted on the May 9th minutes on page 5, just before old business, I need to change 5-year term to a 4-year term. And are there any other corrections? Not could I have approval to approve the minutes as corrected?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the 5/9/22 regular meeting minutes as corrected in the 5/31/22 special meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion of the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. I've also given you the financial reports for May. You have 5 as you get every month. The fund status report as of the end of May. The cash summary for the month of May. The year-to-date cash summary, and then the month of May cash summary. Then you have the May receipts and the May payments. And there are a few items I do want to point out to you. On the receipts, number 74 is $10,000, and that is the zoning fee payment from Valley View Schools for their zoning permit that they received. And on the payment listing, warrant number 50585 for $10,307.25 is the semi-annual payment to First National Bank of Germantown for the Valley View Water and Sewer District loan. And there are 7, I think, remaining payments that will total $72,150.73 through February of 2025, unless at some point you accelerate those payments. And finally, warrant number 50587 for $574,303.68 paid to the city of Germantown, and that is for the first half joint levy collections. And all of the levy payments except for the road levy represent 90% of the tax receipts, less the expenses that relate to those receipts, which is what you all approved when you did the 2022 budget. The road levy payment is different because it is split based on property valuation percentages in the city and in the township. And then I also take a few expenses off of that before we split it, and the payments. So with that in mind, are there any additional questions on the financial statements? If not, can I get a motion to approve the May financial reports, authorize the payment of May bills, warrants 50582 through 50588, and vouchers 337 through 458.
I'll move to approve the May financial reports and authorize the payments of May bills, warrants 50582 through 50588, and vouchers 337 through 458 for payroll, direct deposit, tax withholding, and other electronic payments.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Now, if you look at the fund status report, it shows you the amount in our 2 accounts. It shows that at the end of May, we had $1,448,213 in First National Bank, $415,926 at Star, Ohio. And you will recall that last month you approved giving me the authority to move money between First National and Star, Ohio. After filing the appropriate paperwork that I needed to do before making that transfer, I did transfer $1 million on June So, the interest rate, just as a reminder, First National is 0.05%. During May, Star Ohio paid 0.79%, and as of last Friday, it was paying 0.92%. So we're gonna see a significant increase in our interest income as a result. So currently, the township has $356,000 and change on deposit at First National, and $1,415,000, almost $416,000 at Star Ohio.
So is there a minimum you feel comfortable with keeping with First National? Meaning moving more of that money to Star?
Well, I could. I've already spent a fair amount this month, because we also, in June, I paid the city for the Butter Street project. That was a little less than $80,000. I have payroll today that I did.
So, yeah, so you wanna keep a cushion in there, okay. Yeah.
Let's give it a month or two and kind of see how it goes. The majority of it we have at Star Ohio, and what I really don't wanna have to do is every week move money back and forth to pay bills.
And how did First National, you just wanna ask them if they would meet?
The answer was no, and the answer after that was, that's great if you wanna move it.
There you go. Everybody's happy.
Peter was right.
Mr. Peter was correct. Yes, he was. Heidi Grant, the bank president, did ask that I just let her know every time I move a significant amount of money, because then they can reduce how much they have to buy in Fed, from the Fed, to ensure our balance.
Right, okay.
So,
Oh, good. Everybody happy?
I think everybody's happy.
Good.
Okay. Last month I told you that I had received documents from the Ohio Township Association related to the federal procurement requirements to use for purchases through the American Rescue Plan Act grant funds. And I did forward those documents about a month ago to the prosecutors for their review. And after our last meeting, a couple of days later, they indicated that the documents are appropriate to use once you adopt them at this meeting. So I've given you several items. The first one is a draft resolution, which will authorize an increase in the and this is an official term, micro purchase threshold from $10,000 to $50,000 for most rescue plan purchases. For road maintenance repair, the number is actually $45,000. And that's allowed under the Code of Federal Regulations. And in the same resolution, we also adopt the Uniform Guidance Procurement Policy, which the US Treasury requires that we do. And so we adopt that for the township. And that, if we will approve it tonight, will be Resolution 2022-27. But before you do that, are there any questions about the resolution?
I don't, it's pretty hard to read through, but I did read it.
I've read it numerous times, the attorneys read it, scrubbed it, they're comfortable with it. It was actually prepared by a law firm that the OTA uses extensively up in the Canton area. So I think it's good, it covers what we need. By increasing the threshold from 10 to 50,000 or 45 for roads, it makes it a whole lot easier for us to buy anything in that gap between 10 and 50. We will not have to do nearly the amount of due diligence, multiple bids, or whatever. Anything above 50, that's a different story, which we'll talk about. But everyone recommends that we implement that increase in the micro purchase threshold, and we can't spend any money until we adopt the procurement policy that the US government has. So I recommend that you adopt the resolution.
So I'd like to introduce resolution number 2022-27, authorizing the increase in micro purchase threshold and adopt uniform guidance procurement policy.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the resolution? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Dr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
Resolution 2022-27 is adopted. I've also given you the actual procurement policy, and what that will be an attachment to the resolution in our official files. So the resolution references the procurement policy, and we will attach that. The law firm up in Canton compared the federal uniform guidance procurement rules with the state of Ohio township laws that set forth our procurement rules. And they noted in each instance which policy is the most stringent regulation, and as such we must follow the most stringent one. That is why for roads, we can only go to 45,000 for the micro purchases, as the state of Ohio requires anything over 45,000 to have additional quotes and what have you. It is not going to be part of the resolution, but I sent it to you just so you could kind of look at the comparison, and it may be appropriate for Mr. Holberg or anyone else who's going to spend money using the ARP funds. I've also given you a contract addendum. The township should attach this to all contracts using rescue plan funds. So if we approve, as an example, some road work, Mr. Holbrook, you'll want to attach that addendum to the contract with Barrett. It's a requirement of the Uniform Guidance Procurement Rules, and I think we should approve using this addendum, but I think we can also do it as a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract addendum that the township should attach to all contracts using ARPA funds.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Finally, I've given you the actual letter that the Canton law firm, Baker Deplicar, prepared when they sent all of these documents to the OTA. And I do that just so that if you want to read some of their analysis of each of those issues. One thing that's in the letter that's important to note is that every year we're going to have to recertify that micro purchase threshold of 50,000 or 45 for roads. So I will come back to you in December, and we will make the same resolution for 2023. And that is the end of my ARPA discussion on that particular issue. Now, I reached out to the prosecutors with some other questions on the ARPA money, and the answer we got from them was not quite what we wanted. We were hoping that we could perhaps use some of that money to offset some of our expenses in the road department, the police department, or wherever. They have determined, and we had heard this at the OTA conference, that the funds can't be used for anything that was previously budgeted. So any expenditure we have has to be outside of our 2022 budget or future year budgets if we spend money next year. And it doesn't matter whether we're doing this through the revenue loss category, which is how we're going to spend all of our money, or if we did it using any of the other categories that are allowed under the rescue plan. We also asked them to give us some advice on how many bids it would take if we did some road work on Siegel. Because typically, as you know, and Mr. Holbert, chime in whenever you want, but typically we get our road repair work using the state of Ohio 101G contract.
Or Montgomery County, just piggyback on Montgomery County's contracts.
Well, we piggyback on those contracts. They go out and they do the
Solicitation.
solicitation of bids. There is, in the letter from Baker Dublicard, is a paragraph that talks specifically about purchases between the 50,000 or 45 for roads and 250,000 and what's required. And they indicated that even if you're gonna use a cooperative purchasing agreement, an example might be the Western Regional Council for the Rumpke contract.
Right.
You still have to have multiple bids, even though you're going to be using that group purchasing a builder. However, if you enter an agreement with another government entity for the purchase, or you piggyback off of another government entity, you don't need additional quotes. So we asked them to give us an opinion on that. And well, you saw the email, I included you on it. We got a simple answer from the prosecutor's office this morning that says the Ohio Department of Transportation is another government entity, and the State of Ohio 101G contract is one that ODOT handles, and it, as such, becomes a cooperative purchasing agency also. I had a phone conversation with Anu Sharma earlier today, because I wanted to get a little more color around her statement. And she said that she would do that for us, because when it comes time for our audit, I don't want the auditors to question anything we spend our money on and give us, put us at risk of having to disgorge any funds back to the US Treasury. She could not give me anything more in writing today, but she said by the end of the week she'd try to get a little more detailed analysis. Meanwhile, what I have done is I have given you a draft resolution. I sent it to you not long before the meeting. I don't know, 4 o'clock, 4:30, something like that today. And this resolution would be to approve using the ARPA money to resurface Siegel Road at an amount not to exceed $200,000. And if you would like to introduce this tonight, you can either then decide whether you want to vote it before we get the additional analysis from the attorneys, or we can table the resolution and vote it at some later point. Mr. Holberg said you were going to contact Barrett just to get some sense of
I did contact
urgency.
Bill Wolford, who is the salesman at Barrett that we deal with, that I got the quote from originally. And he said that he would look at the schedule, kind of like what I had told you. And I asked him if we had waited too late, because as you can imagine, people are starting to pile up these jobs onto Barrett's, on the paving crews. And so he said that he would check the schedule and get back to me. And I told him, I said, I was upfront with him about, we were kind of waiting on the final opinion from the attorney's office, but I was pretty sure that we were going to be able to spend the money out of the ARPA money. And he was okay with that. He was, like I said, he was okay to check the schedule, tentatively pencil us in. And I said, once I know for sure, I said, give me, week and a half, we should have an answer. And he said that would be fine. So with that, we're kind of in a waiting game. So we're not in any huge hurry to get the resolution approved. So if you feel more comfortable waiting and tabling it, that's fine. Mark and I had discussion, if something were to happen to hit the fan and they say, we're gonna be 4 miles away from you in 2 weeks, we schedule a special meeting, we pass the resolution that got tabled, and we just do it that way. But I don't expect that to be the case. I expect us to probably be late in the year as far as opinion, but.
So it can be done this year,
Yeah, I'm hoping that it'll still be done this year. But
So the other question, is the 200,000 going to be enough to cover?
yes,
Okay,
we're
all
gonna
right.
add some buffer to that
Okay.
original quote, which was close to 170.
63 and change.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure about fuel surcharges. I don't know how the state writes that contract. Now, Mark pointed out that, you know, it being a contract, it's probably set, you know, the tonnage prices and all that are set in stone. But, you know, fuel just went to $5, and when they originally bid that, I think that would be pretty good reasoning for Barrett to go back and probably, possibly
It is
modify the contract.
With the $6.
Yeah, well, diesel fuel, yeah, closer to
Soon to be 10.
So you certainly would be more comfortable with waiting until we hear.
I don't think there's any downside to wait, but if you want to introduce the resolution and table it, or if you just want to wait and introduce it whenever we're ready to vote on it, it's whatever you prefer. But you
Is there
do
any
have the
benefit?
draft in front of you,
Is there any benefit to tabling it?
none whatsoever.
So I would be good with waiting, and then also, if it happens before the July meeting, we'll make it work to have a special meeting, whatever's necessary to get it done.
Right.
So,
Okay. Meanwhile, you have it, you can read through it, and then I will send it to you again as a reminder for our July meeting, unless we do a special.
Could
And
you
with
make a
that,
copy of that?
pardon me?
Could you make another copy of that for the trustees of that resolution?
Sure.
That way I don't have to copy it tomorrow.
Before you go home tonight, I can give it to you.
Okay, good.
Sure. So with that in mind, I'm done.
I want to thank Mark for all the work on this. I mean, this is a huge amount of paperwork that you have gone through and going back and forth with the lawyers and the OTA. And
Absolutely.
so certainly any resident who wants to read those resolutions, Mark can furnish those, I'm sure. That's a lot.
A lot of legal garbage.
Yes. Thanks, Mr. Hasty.
Thank you.
Police Department report, Chief.
First day of, our first Saturday of May, we had our shredded. I mentioned that in the May meeting to you, and told you I'd give you the stats later. We shredded 5,700 pounds of paper and collected 28 pounds of unwanted prescription medication, which will be destroyed. And that concludes my report.
Mr. Holbrook, Road Department report.
Just to let the board know what we've been doing, Scott and I had started patching some of the potholes that had popped up over the winter, and we did put the first fill in those two I was talking about on Harris that you had indicated. Tomorrow, we plan on replacing culvert on Harris Road. It's a 12-inch pipe. It's right now it's metal, and the bottom of it's all rotted out.
Is that a good idea to do with that, using it as a detour right now with the bridge out, or is it not that much traffic?
I haven't seen that whole much, I haven't seen much traffic there, and most of it is using Siegel.
They got the detour set on Siegel,
Yeah.
nothing on here.
Yeah, but all the locals use Harris.
Yeah, my wife uses Harris. I mean,
So is it a
I mean-
one-day sort of thing, or?
Yeah, it'll be done, it'll be back and covered by noon.
Oh,
So, and I did call some of the people who frequent that route and let them know what was going on.
When are you gonna take it down? When are you gonna take it up?
So,
When are you gonna dig it up?
tomorrow,
Time?
by noon, it'll be done.
I mean, when are you gonna close the road?
7:30.
Okay.
Roughly.
I just wanna know when I gotta get through there before.
7:38 and probably noon, we'll probably have it done. Or at least back in gravel, and then we'll leave it in gravel for a few days until it gets really well compacted, and then we'll take the top off and asphalt it, so. Third item is road mowing. We've completed the second round of right-of-way mowing, and the only other thing I had to talk about was, not on my report, but the ARPA money. We talked about that, and we continue to mow our cemeteries once a week with all the rain, so.
Is that, pipe east or west of West?
It is west.
West of West?
No, east of Wetzel.
East of West.
It's right east of
So
Kevin,
it's
Kevin
not-
Huey's and before you
Kevin
get to
Hughes.
Bill's.
It's between Kevin Hughes and Shane Bill. But yes, east of Wetzel.
Jeremy, thank you. Any road issues tonight with the storm?
Oh, yeah. That's where we were.
That's where you were.
Let's see, one small tree on Siegel, 2 on Mudlick, 1 on Butter. So we made it around real quick and got it at least cleaned off the road, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's all I have.
Okay. go ahead and give a zoning report. The BZA will hold a hearing tomorrow at 7 o'clock, and there's gonna be actually 3 separate cases, which I don't think that's ever happened. They have 3 cases in one night, so wish them luck. The message on the zoning telephone answering machine is still incorrect. It went back to the old message. So we're gonna have to figure that out. We'll try to correct that sometime this week, maybe. I'm gonna advise discontinuing the Thursday 4 to 6 zoning office being open. I come down 4 to 6 and there's really very few people, if anybody, shows up to drop off documents. And I think what we can do is when we change that message on the answering machine, we'll just say I'll put my email on there. If they have to drop off documents, they can just email me and we can arrange a time for me to come down here. Because again, unfortunately, it's just kind of a waste of time to sit here for 2 hours. So if that's okay with the trustees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, waiting for that. I'm gonna advertise for the open alternate position on the BZA within the next 2 weeks or so, with the goal of presenting the candidate to the board on our July meeting. So we'll see how that goes, because we still have an open alternate position. But I kind of want to get through all these cases that are going to go on tomorrow before we get to work on that. So that's it. Trustee reports, Mr. Potter.
I said, talked to Jeremy a couple times about the road, all that's going on, okay? The Park Oversight Committee, still working on getting the hill seeded at a cheap or reasonable or free rate, so I'm still working on that. Did have a meeting with, Dave Short and the MMI meeting, about what they're going to do next, moving, what's the monument that's already there at the park, want to move it over to the monument, to the MMI side. I talked to Dave, I went through Pickle Concrete and got a donation for the fairgrounds, so I got that information to give to him, that he's going to do that, to try to get a donation for Pickle Concrete, to either put up there around the flagpole or down there at the other, so to help with that. I'm going to get the flagpole straightened out in August after the fairgrounds, after the fair, so I'll get that straightened out, and, that's all I have.
Good, thank you. Mr. Stubbs.
All right, thanks. A couple things tonight. Cemetery, I'd like to thank Mark and his staff for keeping the cemetery looking good, especially with all the rain this spring. It looked great for Memorial Day. I've heard some complaints about grass on headstones and such, but it's rained a ton. They're doing all they can. They're doing a great job, so they do great. They do great work for the community. I also ran into Dave Short at the cemetery when I was down there one afternoon, and they're planting wreaths across America again for the fall. So they're going to be looking for if individuals want to donate and buy wreaths for any specific gravestone in the cemetery, you'll be able to contact him. So there should be more information on that to come. We're trying to get as many as possible for the year. And also, always could use volunteers helping clean them up at the, after Christmas. They go on at Christmas, before Christmas. They come off first of the year when the weather's appropriate. We had a pool meeting. Unfortunately, I had missed it last month due to I had a meeting at the school. We should have another one this Wednesday. This is more of a zoning question. Do we yet have access to all of our accounts? Because I know we didn't get all the passports for that.
We do have to the Facebook, which is.
Yeah, we still don't.
We still have access to the
The
Facebook page. Okay.
And I still have not, I contacted GoDaddy with the information they requested for the two-part verification. Let's say 2 Thursdays ago. And they said, give us 3 days, heard nothing. So a week went by, I resubmitted it again, but that would have been, I think, last Wednesday morning. I did not check the email today, I will in the morning, and see if we've received anything back on that for the GoDaddy account itself.
Okay.
To turn off the two-part verification, which then I could change things, yeah.
Appreciate all the extra effort that's gone into getting those taken care of, and it's frustrating that we are still this far out and we still can't get access to all of our accounts. So, very frustrating. reached out to me, and questioned, sick pay payout. So he left our department and he moved to Georgia. And because he didn't stay within the same retirement system, his sick hours did not transfer with him. So he had asked what our policy was on payouts for that, and our policy states that we don't do that. So I'm bringing to the board tonight just the question of, is that a policy that we should consider changing? Not saying full payout, but what Mr. Wolf had pointed out to me is he had 321 hours, he could have called off, and he didn't. So he did us a favor.
Well, he's not supposed to.
But he's not supposed to, right, but he saved up his time and was a good employee. So is there any, do you guys see, a percentage of sick time that we should pay out if it doesn't transfer to another department, or is it just something to think about?
I understand.
So.
There's vacation time and there's sick time.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're not sick, that's how.
Right, no, I agree. I told him I'd bring it to the board tonight and, see what the board would decide, so.
So the current policy, unless they retire, they don't get that.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Retire or die.
Retire or die, so obviously that didn't happen.
No, not in
No.
this case. But as Shay pointed out, if he would have gone to another department in the state, just as when he came to us from Germantown, I think we took whatever accrual.
He was only, he was part-time there, so he had no sick
Okay,
time. But if he would have been full-time, we would have taken any.
His accrual and
Yeah.
put it on our records, and that would have happened in another department in Ohio, but obviously not in Georgia.
And while talking to him, I asked him if he had talked to his new department, and he had, and they will not accept his sick time in Georgia that he's accrued here. So,
That's kind of a good question.
unless we want to establish a policy that pays out in the future a percentage.
If you decide that you want to pursue a change in that section of the personnel manual, I would recommend before we finalize that change, that we get an opinion from the prosecutor. Because apparently this is consistent with at least your experience at Valley View.
Yeah, I believe Valley View's the same way, unless you retire or die.
Right. So I don't know whether there is any state statute that might impact it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it would be good to get an opinion.
Okay, well, it's just a question that he had asked me, so I wanted to bring before the board, so it sounds like we're not interested in pursuing a policy change at this time. So, I will let him know. Let's see, Jen Board, is that under yours?
That's-
Okay, all right, then that concludes my report, thank you.
My report, I attended the 6/6/22 Germantown Council meeting last Monday. The highlights, Jack Warner was recognized for his service to the community, Skunk Furniture. A $5 increase in the permissive motor vehicle license tax is being considered by Germantown. They'll hold a public hearing on that July 5th. The city manager thanked German Township for our cooperation with the Butter Street paving, so we got our there. Mr. Wofsig noted that the virtual video walkthrough is now available online on the Valley View Local School District website to walk through the new buildings. I guess it's pretty interesting. A motion was made and approved to appoint Brian Wofsig as a city representative to the Valley View JED Board. I spoke with Mr. Wofsig after the meeting and inquired if there was any timetable for when the JED Board will try to meet. He said no. I informed that no one had volunteered from the township to serve on the board as of yet. So, that's the end of my report. I'd like to move on. We don't have any old business, do we?
Not that I know of.
I'd like to move on to new business. So continuing the above action, Judy Gilliland, Germantown City Manager, inquired about the trustees appointing representative to the JED Board. Valley View Local Superintendent Richards, who is really not superintendent anymore.
What's the date?
That's the date, but anyway, inquired concerning the school's representatives, and lawyer Brenda Waymer also offered some information about the JED Board. City Manager Gilliland also stated that Randy Stiver, Germantown Deputy Fiscal Director, is interested in being the chairperson position with the fifth member. So does anyone in attendance tonight, or any of the trustees aware of anyone who wishes to serve on the German Township, as the German Township representative of the JIT board? We've had, anyone here? We just, go ahead.
So I spoke to Mark Keener earlier today, and he is willing to serve if there was no one else, so.
Yeah, I certainly think Mark would be certainly he knows all about he's attended enough meetings, he knows all about the JED. He is a resident of the unincorporated portion of German Township, which I think is very important. We gotta have somebody out there outside the city, because right now you've got at least two members on that board that are city residents.
And he's probably top 1, 2, or 3 most knowledgeable people in our community about the JED.
Certainly, because they
So,
attended the meetings.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, do we need to go into executive session to consider the appointment, or just?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, so.
Resolution or motion?
I don't see why it would require a resolution, but if you want to do one, it never hurts to do one.
I think we can just make a motion.
Motion, fine by me.
That's what Germantown did. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mark Keener to this Joint Economic Development District Board for a term of 2 years to commence once the board is seated.
Second.
So it's a 2-year term, but we really don't know when that term starts, because they haven't finished appointing members, so we'll just kind of leave it at that. So,
Any discussion on the motion?
It's a great choice.
yeah, I think it is a great choice.
Yes. Very glad he's doing it.
We appreciate it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion's passed.
Any other new business? Hearing none, can I have a motion to,
I got one question. Chief, what, the fuel price is going up, what's that doing to your budget? I mean, do you patrol less, do you,
No,
what are you doing, anything
If we
at
start
all?
to see it impacting, yeah, we would go to more restricted patrols.
Yep.
Of course, we don't want to,
Right.
because we want our guys to get to every corner of German Township, every street, be visible. But right now, it's not affecting us yet,
Okay.
so,
Good.
yeah, fingers crossed.
So do I have a motion to adjourn? Did we already do that?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And it is now 7:50. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:50.
Chief, I need